Welcome to the Discover podcast, where we view faith as a discovery journey with Jesus to help you become the person God created you to be. Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of the Discover podcast. So glad that you are here. Today we are joined by a very special guest, the one, the only, Jackie Sarauer. And today we have fidgets. So we have fidgets if we need fidgeting toys to play with today. This one looks like an ear. It's kind of lots of fun. These are different sorts of textured rings.
This is blue.
Kind of looks like
We like blue.
It looks like something you would use to exfoliate your skin, maybe.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
You did. It's weird, but yes. We will not be doing that today.
No, there's no exfoliation tutorials on this podcast today. So anyway, so glad that you are here. And should we start over?
Okay. I love you.
We made Monty laugh with that. Monty's sitting behind the camera laughing. So we're actually talking about something fun, serious, unique. Your story, specifically. Yes. You know, I think of everybody knows you as Miss Jackie around here. You get a lot of interaction with kids. You get a lot of interaction with families. People love you because of just who you are. But I don't know how many people know your story in terms of your story of coming to ministry, coming to faith. And so we're going to talk about those things today. So why don't you start by just giving us a little background on you, your upbringing, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. I have worked here for about 4.5 years and been going to church here 1 year less than you, which would be 8 years?
8 years, yeah.
8 years. I came to Christ when I was in high school, started to understand his love, his goodness. But growing up, we had a big family, which is like neat to have so many people that you just get to love, be a part of their lives, which is cool. But we had a time in our lives where we were homeless just for a bit. And just lived a life that was just maybe different than maybe what you would think of me. And as I grew, I had this sense of just non-belonging. I had a poor view of myself for much of it. But when I was 15, somebody invited me to youth group. But it was really interesting because another friend didn't want me to come. And my other friend, Holly, was like, no, come, be a part of this.
Did that other friend say, don't come?
Yeah, she did. No, she didn't.
Okay.
But there was like that subtle hint. Like, just don't be a part of this. I remember before I went, we had a radio in our bathroom at home, and we'd always have something on there. And so there was some random like message where somebody was talking about how there was, God was real and all of that. And I was like, there is no way that there is a God. I remember just being like, that's ridiculous. But I went to church, and there was just something that first night of being like, what? Something's different. And it was just intriguing to me. And then I went through this, like in the middle of this, I had surgery on both my feet. So I couldn't walk. Then my feet got infected. Then I was sick. And
this is all still in high school?
This is all still in high school. This is still while I'm 15.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to this retreat. I was invited to this retreat. I couldn't walk. I had my feet bandaged. It was just gross. I was gross. It was 100% gross. I remember being at the top of these stairs and trying to get down the stairs, and there was this guy named Jeff who was like at the bottom of the stairs. He's like, what are you doing? Kind of in a fun, kind of sweet way. And so I was like, I'm really just trying to get downstairs so that I can rebandage my feet, and it's gross. And so he picked me up, brought me down. Kind of weird. Teenage girl, 15. Guy carrying
Did he carry you
totally kind of fun, a little bit awkward. So carried me down the stairs and helped me bandage up. And in me, I see everything through story, everything through picture. And so he brings me down, helps me bandage my feet. I'm at this retreat, super kind human he was. And then I'm at this retreat and they're just talking about the love of God. It was just like it just hit me. It hit me strong. It was like one of those conversions that I could not believe God took me from this place and brought me over here. Could not believe it. Even still now when I'm telling my story, I'm like, it was crazy. And so
sounds almost instantly.
It was just a yes, probably instantly. And then from there, I just kept being in these spaces where I could learn about him and really understand or start to understand as much as you can when you're a teenager, love of Jesus, the forgiveness and the freedom and the life that he brings. And so it was just huge. I look back and the only way I can think is God took me from a hard spot emotionally, mentally, and brought me to a space of freedom and health.
So how much time went by between that, hearing that thing on the radio and thinking God doesn't exist, to that retreat?
It was pretty soon. It was pretty close. It was close enough to where I could link it and loop it and be like, I remember that, and now I remember that.
Monty will love this. It reminds me of the C.S. Lewis story of him converting. I think he's like in a sidecar on a motorcycle on his way to the zoo. Have you heard this story?
No, but is that real?
And and so
true?
he gets into the sidecar on this way to the zoo, and he doesn't believe that God exists. By the time he arrives at the zoo, he gets out and has this realization that God is real. And I think it's, a matter of that one.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a little bit longer time than a car ride to the zoo, but it sounds like
just
it's
as crazy.
And you just got compared to C.S.
I
Lewis.
did, so I'll take that.
Yeah.
NT right next.
Right.
Some wonderful women of the
Right.
faith. Who can we think of?
So, did you grow up in Lake Geneva?
I grew up in the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
And then we moved to a suburb. And then we moved to a place close to Lake Geneva.
Yeah, I have that in my head. Were you in high school?
Yeah, I went to high school. Go Badgers.
In Lake Geneva.
Yep.
Yeah. So you would have been in Lake Geneva at this time.
Yes.
Yeah, when this
Yeah.
happened. Yeah. So say a little bit more about what that realization was of you're like, okay, God is real and he loves me and he forgives me.
Yeah. So for me, like in my story, it was really like, okay, I used to lie a lot. Like I would like.
Sorry, that's not funny. I don't know why I'm laughing.
Well, it kind of is when it comes out of the children's pastor.
Right.
But
This is Jackie. She's a liar.
I'm a liar. Like I went from this sort of like, I lied, I gossiped. Like I can remember being like, I in high school remember being like, I have to remember the lies that I've told to my friends because like I'm getting trapped.
You have to keep them consistent.
I do.
Right.
And I remember thinking, okay, I should just tell the truth so that people don't know that I'm a liar, which was just what I was. But when I accepted Christ, something happened where the truth became so important to me. Scripture became so important to me. It was like I went from this space of like, I don't know, was it self-preservation, trying to be better than other people, trying to fit in, to like, okay, I've been accepted. Mm-hmm. And so something flipped there. And so, yeah, that was a huge thing. The lying thing pretty much was. And also this idea that I could pray. Mm-hmm. And I could have a community of people that wanted me to love the Lord and wanted me to follow him with my whole life. I was surrounded by that group of people. I know my parents love me. They've been able to see so much good. They're probably the most creative and just really wanting to give life that way. And I was able to see some of that beautiful part go from like that creativity before knowing him, blossom into that creativity directly facing towards him.
Yeah.
And that was pretty neat. Like that was another sort of part of taking all of that and being able to see and use it for Christ.
Do you remember any like thing that was said that somehow changed your perception of there is no God to there is a God? Like,
no, I think if I'm honest, it was community. It was very community based around me. And I still think that's today true. Like the people around me have been people that have shaped me. Also, I really got into the Word almost instantaneously, which was a big deal because I was dyslexic, still am dyslexic. And so it was a big deal for me just to be in the Word. My heart just was like, I just want to learn. Like, and I just kept doing that. But there was a community at youth group. There was a community just in all of these different spaces at retreats. It was just like a pff.
So you were not connected to a church or a youth group before that?
Correct.
And then are you like going every week or how dialed in are you?
Every week. I went every week. Anything I could go to, I would go. I went to church. It used to be like we had gone to church and it was a Catholic church and I really loved and appreciated the homilies. And something similar happened. I went to a small Lutheran church because this all happened within a Lutheran church. And I remember being there and just being like I can engage with this. I can engage I'm not like I was just like, oh, just feed me. I just wanted to be fed. And I'm probably still that way today. Like I just want to be fed by the Word in a community.
So you're in high school, you come to know the Lord. Where do you go after high school? What's like your next step in your faith development? Yeah,
so I ended up going to UWM, University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. That's how I came to the area. And I was studying special education. And I got connected with InterVarsity. And there was just an amazing community. Through InterVarsity, I went on a missions trip to Kenya and served in an orphanage for the summer. And I was a part of their large group coordinator, just really got involved with ministry and with volunteer ministry. Went on retreats, just really loved that. And it was huge. But in that space and in that time, the guy that helped me down the stairs, it was kind of awkward. We became just super close best friends. And probably one of the most significant transitions to maturity was we had talked. It was like a week before, we had talked a long week of arguing kind of thing. And he kind of just said to me, Jackie, you're the one. I want to be with you. And I was like, I'm not sure. And we got into this huge fight. Like, it was just this huge, crazy fight. And a week later, he passed. And so that was like one of those moments where it was like one of my very closest friends, and probably the closest male to me, had just like passed.
This is in college.
In college. And I just remember being like devastated. Yeah. And kind of just spiraled out of there. And it just kept going. I ended up leaving school and just taking space and a break. But in that time, I remember just crying out to the Lord. Like, it was just like, Lord, I need you. And it was just like every day. And I remember coming home and just being like, I cannot wait to get into the Word. Not wait to get home and journal and to pray. And there was something through that I was like, all of that pain, all of that, like, what felt like oppression just happened. I always, and I have found comfort in the Word. And I ended up from there going to Bible school at Cape and Ray in England. And there I just felt like, even through that pain, like, that I was still struggling with, I just felt like the Lord was taking like a cloth to me and just like wiping me off with the Word. It was just huge. It was like a huge, and he might have to deal with me in huge ways because I don't get it apparently. And so he was just talking to me through the Word. And it was like, I've always had this exchange of just being really moved by when I'm in Scripture.
Yeah. So you moved to Milwaukee.
I did.
You're in school, you're not in school, you go through this tragedy. And then, at what point do you start to experience some call to ministry? Because it doesn't seem like you necessarily grew up in an environment where that imagination or vision is necessarily naturally put in front of you. And to go from, hey, this is a great community that has brought me into the faith, to lose my best friend who is an integral part of that, that might cause some people to be like, I'm leaving my faith, or like, I'm probably not going to devote my life to this. So how did you come to that?
Yeah, so a friend of mine was like, hey, there's a job position open at the Joy House, which is inside the Milwaukee Rescue Mission, and it's a shelter for women and children. And they were like, I think maybe this could be a really great fit. And so I went in and I was like, okay. And I worked with the women and children, primarily with the children. And there was just something about being able to share a space with kids that I'd gone through something similar, different, but similar with, that I was almost speaking to myself as I was saying, hey, the Lord loves you. Jesus loves you. He came here for you. When you are in this space, I want to be a person that is safe and good, that we can talk about the things of the Lord. And it was just a very special, special time. I would even say maybe besides this place, or maybe more. It was probably one of my favorite places to work. And just to be a part of somebody's life. And because I had, been in a shelter for a bit as a kid, it was just like a redeeming amazing moment. And I think also then going to Kenya and being in the orphanage, there was just this pull to be a part of kids' lives.
Did Kenya happen before Joy House, in the midst of Joy House?
In the midst, yeah.
So when you say you're speaking to yourself, like you're envisioning, hey, this is me as a kid and some of the experiences I had, and I'm speaking into potentially what is, a younger Jackie or whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it felt like. And even when I look back on it, I'm like, that's what that was.
Yeah. So, when we think about what it means to be in ministry, there's lots of different avenues that people can take. You would say anybody who's working at the rescue mission is in ministry. Last week we had on here Andrew Murphy, right? He's the director of this prison program. This morning I actually got to go and do a devotional with up at one of the facilities, and very much in ministry, but you have that very different from a church context, right? So ministry looks like a lot of different things to a lot of different people. You're starting to feel a call to ministry. Did you feel that? Like, because sometimes it's like, hey, there's this job opening at a shelter. You're like, oh, I need a job, so here's a job. Versus like, okay, this now is a calling. And I would say there's a distinction between working in a ministry and working at a church versus like, I have a calling on my life to vocationally serve for an extended period of time. So when would you say, and sometimes people have a very specific moment, like in the same way, like, hey, I came to faith at this moment. I felt a call to ministry at this moment. Sometimes both of those can be gradual for people.
I think I was at the mission and I really sensed like this is a call. Like I really like.
So it happened during that time rather than before.
Yeah, probably not before. But I remember also being there and a position opened at Meadowbrook in children's ministry, and I felt so called to be like, I think I need to be a part of this. And so my mentor at the time, Jan, was like, hey, what do you think about, applying for this? And that seemed like a huge calling as well.
Were you attending church there at that time?
No, I was at Eastbrook. I was at Eastbrook Church, not at Meadowbrook. And so, but there was just something that was drawing me to work there. And I remember somebody from work being like, you're a traitor. You're going from working with poor people to working, with really rich people. And I remember just being like, people are poor in the spirit, or you have like riches in Christ. Like there's nothing. But when you're called, you have to go where you're like going. And so as I was there, I sensed a strong call. And I remember going to our pastor at the time, Mel Lorenz, and being like, I really believe I'm called to pastoral ministry. What do I do? And he was like, hey, I think that you should go to 3 trusted friends and ask them. And so I remember going to them and being like, is this in my head? Is there a blind spot I'm not connecting with? Like, am I called? And they were like, you are called. And so I think through like affirmation of that group of trusted women that I was like, okay.
So that you're starting to explore that while on staff at Meadowbrook, right? So you enter into that job as like, I'm maybe called to this job, or like the Lord's leading me to this job. And then during that, it's like, oh, I'm called to ministry with my life vocationally. I mean, that's an interesting image for people, because I think sometimes, and I probably am this way at times, like I want to have everything figured out. Like I want to know the end goal. I want to know the path before I step. But I think God works in a very different way, where he often just gives us a next step or just puts an opportunity. And as we explore these opportunities, there's a calling that comes rather than like, hey, I have to have this calling before I even move in this direction. Yeah,
it wasn't like that. I think once I was like at Meadowbrook, talking to Mel, talking to friends, like I knew. But like until then, it was just like, what's the next thing? What am I about? Like, what is this? But yeah, it has been strong ever since then.
And would you say it's mostly revolved around kids for you?
Yeah, it's mostly revolved around kids and women. There's always been some part of that where I've been like, I just really want them, me, all of us men too, to know the love, the goodness of Christ, the death, the resurrection, like that whole story has always been really important, probably for all of us like that are in ministry, but it's been really important to me to be like, this is real and it can have a real impact.
Yeah.
What he did in dying and in raising has a huge impact, and like that overwhelming sense of love over your life.
So say more about, you've got these people. So Mel tells you, you're like, yeah, I think I'm called to pastoral ministry, and he tells you go find some people and talk to them about it. I've always thought that one of the ways you discern a call, somebody, I can't remember all the things, but somebody once said you're looking for affirmation. That's part of what you're looking for from other people, that they see in you what you think God is calling you to. So say more about kind of what that looked like and how you received that, or what experiences you had that were like, oh yeah, this is what I'm called to do.
Yeah. So like, you mean after that initial?
Well, so Mel tells you to go talk to some people.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, what were some of those conversations?
Yeah, it was like, I remember my friend Kelly Erickson, she's at Eastbrook, and I remember going to her and being like, hey, and she was just able to be like, okay, this is what I see in you. Like, I see you're a shepherd. I see that you're empathetic. I see that you love the word. And so we just kind of went through it. And the big thing that I do is like, I just don't want there to be any blind spots. Yep. I do not want to walk into something and be like totally, like when somebody is like on American Idol and they go and they think they can sing. Yeah. And then they go to sing and you're like,
you cannot sing.
Why didn't somebody tell them? Somebody should have told. How did you get this far and nobody told you? And so but Jesus loves you. But
you might be a terrible singer,
but he loves you. But this idea of like, I just want to know the blind spots. I just want to know if like I'm going in a direction that I shouldn't be going in. I probably bent a little bit too hard towards that. And so just these like affirming conversations that I continued to have. And I think as like grew even at Meadowbrook, is this a good time to talk a little bit about Wynn?
Yeah.
Just a very beautiful human being who would tell you she was a wretched sinner, loved by God. When she was 85, we met. I went over to her place for like a retreat. day with our staff.
Her name is Win. You said this is a good place to talk about Win. Maybe some people listening might not realize.
Not a Win.
Right.
Well, she was a Win. She was Win.
But that was her name, Win Couchman.
Win Couchman. She was pretty wonderful. And I remember going over there, and it just I was like, wow. Like, there's something about her. There's something about this house. Like, it was full of light. It was just very warm, just very kind. And at the end of, us leaving, she was like, hey, we need a ride to church on Easter. And I was like, do that. And so I called Justin, and I was like, hey, do you think we could do this? And he was like, of course. So we drove her to church on Easter. And then they were like, we actually aren't allowed to drive anymore because they were older. And they were like, we're going to need a ride to church every week. And so before I went to work every week, we would all get into the car, we would all drive, we would talk just about life, and then at the end of the morning, we would just drive them home, and it was just a beautiful, start to a relationship. And I remember talking with her one day, and I was like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think of it? And I just said, hey, I want to take a group of women that we all know, that I knew, and I just want to shower them with love, the truth of the word. And so we went through John. I really want to just shower them with the word. I want to shower them with experiences, with creativity. I want it to be week long. I want it, and I had all of these things. And she looked at me and she was like, hey, can I do it with you? And I was like, absolutely, Win Couchman, you can do anything you want. Right. And so it was lovely because she looked at me and she said, I want you to lead it, though. I'm not going to lead it. I want you to do it, and I will go and do what you tell me to do. And I was like, are you serious? It would be like N.T. Wright being like, please do this. But it was just this moment of wow, she trusts me. And so we wrote this curriculum together. We took 6 women that we just had been mentoring and walking with. We just showered them. And as we did this, we had to meet weekly, which was wonderful. And at the end of it, we had this big celebration with these women and their mentors, their parents. It was just a very sweet, sweet time. And she kind of pulled me aside and was like, hey, guys, I want you to know that I really believe in the ministry that Jackie has. Mm. And she said that in front of all of these women, including the women's pastor at Elmbrook. And I was like, is it okay that we say that? But it was just this moment of affirmation. Yeah. And I knew she wasn't lying because she didn't lie. She never was just doing stuff like that. So that was humongous. Yeah. Part of the call.
Yeah. So sometimes it's hard to receive a call. Sometimes it's hard to receive affirmation around a call because sometimes we believe, well, I'm not enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not able, whatever. And so talk a little bit about some of the challenge that you have faced over the years. We've talked about this, what does it mean to receive a call, be affirmed in it, but then actually walk in confidence in a call? Yeah,
I think for me at least, it has had to be I don't know why, or maybe I do, I don't know. Just the self-doubt, all of that. And I know I've been in church situations that have been unhealthy, that people have said unkind or untrue things to me. And so I've had these voices. And so in that, I have had to combat the truth. And a lot of times it's really just in the word. I am just going at it. Okay, what does the word say? I need to understand. I need to get it. And one time, and I've done this 3 times, but one time I was just praying through things and struggling with things. And I just sensed that God was go through the Bible in a year, that people do in a year, go through it in a month. And so I just took the word and I was like, here we go. I put an earbud in, read along, listened to it. And I did it in a month. And I was just looking for those spaces that I would be able to hear about God's love. But I needed to do it quick because I needed to capture it. And so I did it 3 times just to get it in, just so that I could combat freedom.
You listened or read through the Bible 3 times.
In 3 different months.
In 3 months. Wow, that's a lot.
But it's what I need. And it's still what I go to because I'm well, what? I only know that is truth. So what else am I going to do? Yeah. But it's also been through friends. My good friend Jamie, if I'm having a hard time or I'm questioning, she's just let's get together and talk about it. And then we talk about it. Or it would be something I would go to Win and just be hey, I need your help. I need some perspective. I need, and she was pretty honest with me. And even now I'll go to you and be hey, this is what I'm thinking. And we can kind of talk it through. Right. But left to my own, I will spiral.
So let's take the whole call to ministry out of it for just a moment. Because I think a lot of people who are listening or viewing or whatever might not be I'm called to ministry. I'm not called, but they would say, I struggle with self-doubt or confidence in all areas of my life. So let's talk a little bit about that from the standpoint of, how do you So I'm hearing how you combat that is, okay, through the scriptures, through community with other people. And just what are some of your observations about people struggling with confidence and self-doubt, and where and how do you see that in just the interactions you have with people?
Yeah, I would say be honest about it. I think there's a tendency in a church not to share, thinking you'll be disqualified or thinking that other people will judge you. And that might be one of the big things, is if I admit it. And I can say as a staff member that, hey, there's a lot of times where I'm like, do I share I'm struggling? What will they think? What will people think? Will people be able to trust me? Like all of that. And that temptation to be like, I want people to think I'm like perfect. Or
I got it all together.
Yeah, and I don't. Obviously, I don't. I've shared. But what I've seen, I think a lot, even here, is can I do it? And I think getting stuck, I'm a sinner. These are all the things that I do wrong. These are all the places that I fall short. And so I can't do this or whatever that is. And so I think getting stuck in that place. And I think as leaders, it's our responsibility to be like, no, guys, this is where I struggle, but this is where the Lord has come in.
Right.
And so, which is our responsibility. Like, we have to do it. And you've done that from the pulpit. And so we just have to do that so that it then gives permission for other people to be like, hey, like, I feel like I can't go forward. I feel like I can't follow what I believe he's calling me to, but there's some part of me that's doubting what that is. And so for us is being like, hey, we struggle too. I want to walk with you. And I've told my daughter and my son this. Get a good group of friends, not just people we get along with or have things in common, but like those people that and it might just be 2 or 3 or 1, doesn't matter. Having this group of people that are surrounding you going, I really want what is best for you in your walk with the Lord. I really want that. And I'm going to do what I can to push you towards that. And I'm going to walk with you through it. And it's really being able to go and capture that within them, within your friends, to be able to do it. And so, that's kind of what I think. I think we just really have to be honest, and we really have to do it with people.
Yeah. Can you think of moments? So in moments where you find yourself either doubting your calling or doubting certain things, can you think of moments that stick out to you? It's like, that was a moment where I was like, oh shoot, should I be doing this?
Yeah. I think there's been like some kids moments I've done where I've got off stage and I was like, oh my goodness, what was that? It was just like a horrible, from my perspective, just this horrible thing. And I was like, what am I doing? Or if I'm downstairs working in kids ministry, on a single morning, I could have we could be talking about one thing, one topic, and I'll have 4 different opinions that are really strong coming at me. And at that moment, knowing I am going to make 3 of the 4 people upset with me. And just that temptation, they might not see it. And a lot of times people might not see it. They might not see inside of me. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't want anybody to be mad with me. Please like me. And so in those moments, I'm like, am I cut out for this?
Yeah.
Or those times where I can just see emotionally, I'm like, why am I so mad at this? What has happened? And then, kind of that self-doubt, spiral. And so, it happens all the time. If you could see inside of my head.
Yeah. So I think so you have these moments where you maybe doubt a calling even, and talk through how you get beyond that, because I think that for those who are called to ministry, because some people are like, what's so big? What's the big deal about having a call to ministry and having some measure of affirmation and confidence in that call? And I tell people it's one of those things that you go back to when things get hard, because there's plenty of days you're like, am I cut out for this? Or do I want to do this? Or is this worth doing this? And if you have a sense of call, it kind of provides an anchor for you. So as you think through moments of challenge, moments of questioning, what do you go back to specifically in your call to help you stay the course?
Yeah. So with Wynn, she was dying, and she called me into the place where she was in hospice, and she asked me to come in. And so we talked, knowing it was going to be the last time. We both knew, she had prepared, we had the conversation. So I came in and she was just praying. She wanted me to kneel before her. Which was weird, because for me it was weird, but it was a lovely, sweet moment. But I was like, oh, what are we doing? And she had me kneel before her, and she just sort of held me and prayed over me. And we were both crying, and she was just like, Jackie, you are called. You are called to ministry. And she took lavender oil, and she just kind of marked my forehead with it. And she was like, you are called. And as we were hugging, I remember it clear as day, I sensed like this, like almost like her faith or something transferred from her body to mine. I know that sounds awkward and maybe weird, but I have no other way to explain it other than that. And so something happened in that moment where I feel like the Lord did something. And obviously it didn't come from Wynn, it would have come from the Lord. But yeah, I go back to that all the time. Like there was something divine in that moment, and there's something that I will probably always continue to go back, and it's always on my mind. And I remember at the ordination service when Dave Seamuth was talking, and he was like, yes, like Wynn did all of these things and she has passed, but you are still alive. And so what are you going to do? Pretty much like, am I going to walk in the calling, or am I just going to like, am I going to keep going, or am I just going to stop?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's good. And so let's try and start to wind this down by like, how do we make a translation from like what you've experienced in this call to ministry and this journey, what I would say I've experienced in a call to ministry. Like I can go back to certain moments and be like, I think this is what God is putting in front of me. Yeah. And for those who are listening, they're like, well, I haven't had that. Like I believe in Jesus. I'm following him, and I'm trying to live the life that he's called me to live. Like, how do we translate what we would say is a call to ministry is just a call to follow Jesus? Yeah. And what are the parallels there? Yeah. And how can people stay the course when they're like, hey, I might want to jump ship?
Yeah. We're called to something. Like we're called to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, strength, all of it, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. And I think that first, like all of us, doesn't matter who we are all to go to the Lord, to love him, to follow him, to live out what he has given us. And so I think that is primary. I mean, if he says that's the first command, that's the first thing.
Right.
And if the second command then is to love the people he's put in your life, then who are those people? Like, you get to love them. And that's what I used to think when I worked at the rescue mission, and I think now, like, I was given the gift of being able to love the children and families at Meadowbrook. That was a gift that I was given. That is amazing. Like, how do I get to do that? How was I able to tell kids that Jesus loved them that were homeless? Like, what a gift to be able to do that. And so who are those people that God has put in your life that like, hey, I get to love them. I get to teach them. I get to show them. Are those your kids, your spouse? Like, is it people at work, your neighbors? Whom is it? Like love them. Love them in the ways that you know how to love them. And when you mess up, you apologize. Like you will mess up. You repent and you continue to go. Like you don't we don't need to be paralyzed by our own shortcomings. We just keep going.
Yeah, I think the way you frame that is the call to love God with all that we are and all that we have, and to love people, even though we might say, oh, we have this quote unquote call to ministry. That's our primary call, is to love God and love people, no matter what it is. And yeah, there are plenty of moments when we're like, hey, I don't know if I'm up to the task. I don't know if I have what it takes. Some people call this the imposter syndrome. Yeah. Like, am I really one who should be doing this? Whatever that thing is as it pertains to how you live out your discipleship. And it seems like the things that we've been revolving around in this conversation are how you combat that self-doubt is by going to the Word, being in community, and kind of going back to those early moments of God inviting you into whatever he's inviting you to. And like those become the anchor points for our spiritual journey. So what would you want to leave people with in this conversation? What's kind of your final word for like, hey, take this one thing with you. Remember this one thing from Pastor Jackie as you finish this episode.
Yeah, I would say be fully you. Don't hide. Bring whom you are directly to him. Doesn't matter what that looks like. Bring yourself, your authentic self. Do not hide. Find people. Find your people that are going to help you follow the Lord in the call that he's put in your life. And ultimately, live and rest in his love. Nothing else matters. There is nothing else that matters compared to his love. There is nothing. And so like living in that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to wrap it up, to say, be you, be all of who God has created you to be, and rest in his love. And it's like if you do those things and you do those things consistently, you'll find strength, you'll see growth, your confidence will increase, because all you have to do is be you. You can't be anybody else other than you.
So you're really bad at being someone else.
Yeah, but you're really good at being you. Yeah. Hey, well, thanks so much for
having me.
joining us. It was great. Yeah, hopefully this was a helpful conversation for you as well, those of you who are tuning in. I think if there's one thing I could just remind us all of is, whatever God has placed in front of you, whether it's a call to ministry or just a call to follow him or a call to love your difficult neighbor or a difficult family member, like he is in it with you and he's giving you what you need. And we as a church want to walk alongside you. So I know that, if today's episode was impactful for you and Jackie's words were encouraging to you, I know that she'd love to keep that conversation going, or she'd love to hear about it. So we'd also love to hear more of how you're experiencing this podcast on the whole. And so feel free to drop us a line at any point. If there's things that you would love to hear from us, like any conversations you'd love for us to have so you can grow in those, we'd love to hear those too. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.